Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome into the first playoff committee episode of the season. And this is the debut, the 12-team playoff. Now, there's a lot of things in the playoff as far as auto bids, buys, and home field advantages, situations. Those don't matter until the final rankings. Right now, this is the first week. There's going to be 3 total weeks of them. It's all about ranking 1 through 25, and it's likely going to be very different from the top 25 you saw last week in the coaches poll, just because it's not algos. There's a lot of different upsets. A lot of crazy things can happen. These are the rankings we're going with. If you want to say what we did wrong, feel free to talk about it in the server. But these are the official rankings. This is what we're going by. And the playoff committee this season is going to be myself, Dogwater, Nick, Cryo, Florida Man is the for sure committee, and then we have Pinstripe and Rick to jump in if they ever need to. If I ever need to go outside of this committee, if just nobody's available, Yui is going to be a pick. Maybe whoever else is available, going from veteran status down to the newbies, right? So here we go. Kind of what we tend to do and what we've done in the past is kind of go through all of the divisions first and kind of write down all the teams that are even rankable, and then we'll kind of go back through. But I think right now it's pretty safe to say, is everybody okay penciling in Clemson at number 1? They're the only undefeated team left.
Yeah, not even a question.
I'm fine with that.
All right. Obviously, they had that crazy win over Georgia. They beat Buffalo, so Coastal, so some good wins. And remember, the rankings you see on the screen, I had to sim the week, so all the stats set and everything, but these aren't obviously the official rankings that you're seeing, so keep that in mind. But for right now, we're going to have Clemson at number 1. No shocker.
Look, even the game agrees.
So now we're just going to kind of go through the divisions first and kind of write down teams that are rankable. So obviously we're probably going to end up ranking Buffalo. So I'm going to write them down. I don't think
nobody else. My God.
Yeah, nobody else in this division, and I'm going to write down them as 8-3. In the Coastal, we're going to rank ECU, North Carolina. I don't think we'll be ranking a 4-loss team at this point. We'll come back to 4-loss teams if we need to. But ECU, it's 11-1, and I'm going to be writing these down for us as well. All right, so 3 rankable teams from the ACC. We're going to go to the American. Now, the G5, I want to get your opinions on this. Personally, in my ranks, I don't see us ranking a G5 team in the top 15 right now. I don't know how you guys feel.
I agree because of how many 2-loss and 1-loss P5s there are.
Yeah, so I don't feel comfortable. I'm still going to write down these teams, though. I think Rutgers and Cincy for right now. I think Army is locked out of the division, so I don't really want to be ranking a 3-loss Army.
They are. They're locked out because Rutgers has head-to-head.
So Cincy 10-1. And then in this division,
who would win it?
Or go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go. No, that's fine.
Oh, I mean, we're not ranking anybody in this division. Sorry. All right, Big 12 North. It's going to be Arkansas, Iowa State, obviously.
Holy crap, this division is bad.
I think Arkansas might be a team that gets one of the bigger boosts in the committee meeting, but we'll see. Iowa State is 8-3. And then in the South, it's going to be 2 teams, TCU and Baylor.
Nice.
My cat's bothering me. She wants me to go to bed, but SFA takes priority.
That's what we like to hear. All right, so 9-2. If you absolutely have to go, we have enough where we should be fine. We like to at least have 3 available. All right,
I can stay.
Big 10, we got obviously Michigan, who reclaims the division lead after a scare last week against Penn State. I think that you rank Ohio State probably still, despite the tough loss.
What is that? I'd have to see the resume, to be honest.
Yeah, they'll be fringe. I'm going to write them down. I'm not going to write down Penn State. Bad loss to Ohio State, like I said, 4-loss teams. If we're stripped for teams, we'll come back. But Minnesota,
Minnesota, Illinois.
I think Illinois has a chance
yeah.
as a fringe.
What's their roll look like?
All right. So in terms of these kind of teams, I'm going to write them down, but I'm not quite too sure where they're going to wind up. I just want to make sure I don't leave any teams out.
Didn't LA Tech have like a really, really bad loss though?
Well, they
To
lost
Tennessee,
to
I
Tennessee
think.
Oh,
and
it was
then
Tennessee, never mind.
Washington and Washington State. So
No, they've only lost to Wazoo.
not
and
ranking
Tennessee.
anybody there. Independence, I don't see us ranking BYU.
No.
Louisville might be a fringe team. I mean, who knows? But I think that's
Just
the
out of
only.
the ACCs.
I think that's the only MAC team we would consider ranking at this point. Is Central Michigan fell off a cliff. Mountain West, I just don't see a team here. Maybe a Fresno State once they beat Stanford.
What about Hawaii? They're also 8-3.
Yeah, they have the head-to-head loss to Fresno, lost to Washington, but that New Mexico loss hurts.
Yeah, no, never mind.
Yeah. Like, maybe a
Well,
fringe
once we're
top
lost,
25 later in the year, but right now...
If we're
it's-
struggling.
Yeah.
Washington and Cal here.
Washington quietly becoming a top team in the country. Cal.
So stupid, dude. This is about to look so stupid.
Voila.
So stupid.
Arizona, you're getting ranked, Dogwater.
I mean, I'd hope so at 10-2.
No, I'm talking about Stanford being in first. It's so stupid.
You got to
Should've
win that
beat 'em then.
head-to-head, man.
I know.
should've beat 'em.
I'm undefeated since the playbook change, but God, dude, that's so rough.
Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Florida is fringe since I just beat them. But
Hey, no, I don't think you can rank Florida after losing to UCF.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to some fringe teams. I'm going to write them down anyways. Is there 3 loss? But a lot of these
299
teams,
to 289. Oh my God.
yeah, I told you.
Yeah,
I
they've been winning
said
a
that
bunch
earlier.
of
Frauds.
close games. Georgia at 8.
I wouldn't say that makes them frauds. I would just say that means they're able to close out a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But-
Oklahoma, obviously 10-1. A&M fringe. I mean,
The
Texas.
only 7-4 team I could think of ever possibly ranking.
Texas 8-3. And you know, I will write down A&M at 7-4 because they have some of the most impressive wins in the country. By far, the toughest schedule in the country.
Don't they still play Clemson too? It's so
No,
rough.
they play Ohio State.
Ohio State. Well, they could win that game.
Sunbelt.
Coastal State is
I'm
one.
gonna write down JSOW. It might be fringe. If
They are.
there's a
We cannot rank them because
Southern Miss
I-
is in this other range, so
Southern Miss definitely serves right.
okay.
JSOW.
So in total, I wrote down we've got 25. So 20. So I have 30 total teams, and we put Clemson at 1, so we have 29 spots or 29 teams for 24 spots at this point. So first up, let's just kind of start out with the one loss. We have East Carolina at 11-1. We have Cincinnati 10-1. Like we said, I don't think we're going to rank a G5 anytime soon, so I'm just going to put them on the back burner. And then Michigan's 10-1, Minnesota's 10-1, Washington's 10-1, and Oklahoma is 10-1. Anybody have opinions on these teams before we look at?
Yes.
Okay, what do you want to say?
I like ECU at 2 because we have set a precedent with that, and I don't think just because they had a 3-point win, I don't think that necessarily knocks them off a pedestal.
Well, I'd also say coach's poll doesn't mean shit. They only got ranked 2 because of a algo ranking. I would much prefer us not put the the coaches poll in our minds even a little bit and just kind of look at the resumes. So, just going off the quality wins here, I don't see Utah as a ranked team, but on the road at Buffalo's by far the best win on the schedule. And then if you want, like, how historically we've done quote unquote quality wins is wins against 6 or more win teams, right? So Georgia Tech, Buffalo, Virginia, Utah, Syracuse, and that's 5 quality wins, with their only loss being UNC. So not necessarily the best resume. Also an overtime game against Missouri. Let's go on to the next team, which is the Big Ten teams. The win over Ohio State's big. You got Iowa. Wisconsin's not that great.
Whoa.
Maryland's not
That
that
loss
great.
to Penn State's kind of rough.
Yeah. I would say that the UNC loss is probably better than a Penn State loss, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then I'm also looking at this, and Michigan only has technically 3 quality wins. You got Michigan State, Iowa, and Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's a great win. Ohio State, Buffalo.
I think it's a little watered down of a great win.
Yeah. So I think really similar resumes here. Obviously, I can't vote on ECU. Next up is we have Minnesota, who I think their resume has gotten so much worse as time goes on. Now, they have the Ohio State win and the Illinois win, but that Arizona State loss continues to get worse and worse. But they have 4, so they have, as of right now, 4 quality wins.
So
and then the ASU loss.
See, the only thing about Minnesota, in my opinion, is most of these wins is they're blowing people the hell out.
That's true. How you win is important.
But so is ECU. So it's
yeah, that's also true. I mean, the number 5 team in the country at the time, you beat 40-5. So
yeah. All right, let's look at Washington.
Actually, the defending national champion, you beat 40-5.
Whoa, Washington.
Washington has a similar loss to ECU and Stanford, a 3-loss team. You got the win over Cal. Win over Oregon State now seems to be kind of quality. ASU, Hawaii, and no other one. So another 4 quote-unquote quality wins and then a bunch of blowouts. Remember, they had this little stretch there where they struggled when they're like 1-score games, but they've kind of figured it out. And then finally, Oklahoma. LSU's a quality win at this point.
That Texas loss hurts now.
It was a last-second loss. Yes, they 8-3. It's exactly similar. The Texas loss is exactly similar now to that Stanford loss and the UNC loss. And then you have SMU, technically quality, I guess, but not really. You got BYU, Ole Miss, the win over A&M. So those are the win-loss teams.
I don't like Oklahoma's resume.
Yeah.
You don't like Oklahoma's?
Or not Oklahoma's. What's their name? The one before them.
Washington?
Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota. We kind of felt like was like the one loss to rule them all, right? But I feel that way too. I feel like that their resume is completely kind of fallen off. Now they might be rivaling Oklahoma with the 2 best wins, Ohio State, Illinois, compared to the A&M win and the whoever else they.
I will say though, with Minnesota, if you look at their schedule, they didn't start blowing anybody out really until they started playing all these shitters down late.
Well, yeah, and but remember
Yeah.
the whole storyline of them was those road games at the beginning. No one thought this team would start like this. As Nebraska was ranked,
Yeah,
Iowa
but
was ranked, Illinois was ranked. Obviously, looking back, it's not as good, but it's still like a
it
like
falls off a cliff at this point in
yeah.
the season, in my opinion.
But then they're doing their job, right?
They are. No, I give them that 100%. To me, that's just a terrible resume. Like, unfortunately for them, it's not like they did anything wrong, but
To me, so in my head, it's looking like ECU 2, either Michigan to, either Michigan or Washington at 3 and 4. I don't know where to put them. Or sorry, Michigan, Washington, and then Oklahoma, and then Minnesota. Oklahoma at 5, Minnesota at 6.
What?
I think I would push Oklahoma a little higher than that.
I like
Yeah, I don't
Oklahoma.
know. Yeah, I do as well, but that TAMU win is their only really good win.
Well,
Because I mean,
okay.
however, Minnesota does have that win over Illinois. It's just that ASU loss is
Yeah,
really what's.
the thing about Oklahoma is their quality wins have really been the last half of the season. And
Hmm.
so it's like, do we want to go based on the teams they're playing now? Body of work, obviously, body of work trumps. But we know A&M's a great team. That's a quality win in our eyes. Probably better of a win than Ole Miss or BYU.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Not even a shadow of a doubt.
So, I mean, I like all these teams. I don't know how to rank it.
I mean, they have the win over Cal, and then
I think in my head, all these teams have made one mistake. All of the mistakes are really comparable. You got the 8-3 loss to UNC. Then in the Big Ten, you have Penn State. Then you have Arizona State, which is still an okay team despite being 5-loss, but probably the worst
The
loss of
pack
the
murders
bunch.
itself. That's
what's
why
it?
Arizona
Yeah.
has 5 losses.
You have
Do you
Yeah,
want me to
what's
give
Stanford
input
Arizona's
or?
loss,
record?
and then you have the Texas loss. So it's like I feel like the losses across the board are a wash, unless you want to dock Minnesota a point for the
Am
Arizona
I
loss.
able to give input, or are you guys good?
If you want to. I mean, we
Go
don't
ahead.
have 5, yeah. So
Okay.
so we've only ranked Clemson number 1. we're s- we're
The problem
struggling.
is, in my opinion at least, every single one-loss team we've looked at has a case for the number 2 spot.
Yeah.
They all seem
Yeah,
similar. They all have an equalish amount of quality wins. They all have a weird-ish loss, like a 3-4 loss team in there. That's tough.
Yeah.
I really like Oklahoma, dude. I really, if we're not going to put ECU at 2, I might even dare say Oklahoma at 2.
I
yeah.
think I would probably put Oklahoma at 2 because their loss was a last second loss, and like ECU
Yeah,
got
I'm
steamrolled, right?
voting for them at 2.
They got steamrolled. You have Michigan, who got steamrolled by Penn State. I don't want to say steamrolled. It was a touchdown, but it was a BearCave loss. Then you got Minnesota, who just came out flat against ASU. And then
They got
Washington
flat out
lost
embarrassed.
by 2 scores. So if everything else is comparable, do we just go with the hot hand who has the closer
Yeah.
loss? Okay.
Yeah, it's Oklahoma gets it, I guess.
So right now we have Oklahoma at 2. Okay, so now that puts us down to 1-loss teams left: ECU, Michigan, Minnesota, and Washington. So now we just kind of chop off the blocks, so to speak. Now, 3 of these teams still have a game to play as well. That matters.
Yeah, so I'd say Washington might be at 3 over uh over ECU, and Michigan maybe just because their only loss is to Stanford, who is
Yeah,
one
but it was a
win.
10-point loss.
Yeah, but that's the thing. ECU lost by 12 to North Carolina. Michigan lost by 1 score to Penn State,
I
who's
would
not
put
great
East
on the rest
Carolina,
of
or
it.
not East Carolina, but North Carolina and them is pretty comparable losses.
Yeah, however, ECU lost by 12.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
So
the worst logic because all of these teams' best wins are against 3-loss teams as well. Nobody has an outstanding win over a 2-loss team or anything. And the
yeah.
losses are all kind of pretty big missteps for ECU, Minnesota, and Michigan. And I think for the Big Ten, honestly, that Ohio State loss this week kind of hurts their strength of schedules like a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So I would be fine dropping the Big Ten teams here a little bit. So obviously I can't vote, but
So this is going to be EC. So this is between ECU and Washington right now, correct?
well, what I'm hearing
I
is
think
Washington.
ECU just has better wins, man. I think the win over the defending national champion, 40-5, just kind of trumps anything Washington has done.
Yeah, you're right. And Washington's best win is what against by
And
5 points against
if
Cal.
it
Yeah.
matters, Chad Blunt didn't play in that game. I know how you feel,
I don't
Dogwater.
think it does. No, I mean, like I understand like that Chad Blunt was a tough loss for them, but I don't think it. I just don't agree. I don't know, man.
No,
I don't think
I'm
the
not getting
injury
into
plays
it. I'm
into
not getting into
your
it.
decision at all, though. It's
I'm
just kind
not.
of because I think you has such a better win.
Yeah, it doesn't matter here. So okay, so is it ECU 3, Washington 4? Is that what you
Yes,
guys are
and then
laying
the
on?
Big Ten teams.
East. So yeah, ECU 3, Washington 4. I think it's Michigan 5 and Minnesota 6. Does that sound good?
I'm fine with that just because, like we said, Minnesota has had a lot harder or a lot easier of a second half of the season. They have that loss to Arizona State that just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Michigan has that better loss. I mean, I don't know if you could say it's a better loss to Penn State, who's
But then you
7-4 at the.
also like here's the thing also is we're looking at this is like Minnesota
Yeah,
already has the win against Illinois. Michigan has to play Illinois this week, and
however, what's the
Michigan has to
how
play
much?
Western Michigan. Like, does that make sense? Is Minnesota they're gonna face, so it doesn't matter. But is Minnesota's body of work already worse than Michigan's without the Illinois loss?
I mean, so Ohio State. I mean, Michigan beat Ohio State by 12, whereas Minnesota only beat them by 4. You could also argue that,
Yeah,
I
you can
guess.
go you can go like opponents, I guess. Yeah, I mean it doesn't matter. Are we Michigan first, Minnesota second? I'm fine with that based on the losses.
I mean, we also have next week to work this out because the Michigan Illinois game. So
Well, yeah.
I mean, this is
Um,
still important, but it's not the end all be all.
all right, so I'll put Michigan first. Ay. If these teams keep winning, it's going to be a crazy pick for those top 4 seeds. Okay. Minnesota. Okay, so how the top 6 looks as of right now. Remember, we don't care about auto bids or any of that heebie-jeebies right now. Clemson, Oklahoma, ECU, Washington, Michigan, Minnesota is your top 6. Now, I think we all said Cincinnati doesn't sniff anywhere near here right now, so we won't talk about
Yeah.
them. But now you're down into this gutter of 2 lost teams, and it's actually a lot shallower of a barrel after a lot of these losses. So you have, in terms of 2 lost teams, you have Arkansas, you have Baylor, you have Arizona, you have Tennessee, and you have Alabama. So there's 5 teams there. Now, I don't know, does anybody have a 3-loss team they're like in love with that thinks would jump any of these 2-loss teams? I feel like
No.
everybody feels like Arkansas is the worst one of the bunch.
Oh man, so
Oh my god.
So you're still at
Arkansas State went to
TCU.
OT?
Well, yeah, but that was a crazy game where they were up by a lot, and then it was like the Wisconsin game, only in sim. But yeah,
I think
they didn't have a lot of great games.
their only loss is to Baylor. So Baylor is getting retired though. That's for
I
sure.
mean, Ole Miss too.
Or
They
have
got
2
smoked.
losses.
I
Yeah.
think TCU, Georgia, and Ohio State are the best like 3-loss teams. Of course, withstanding
Yeah.
Buffalo.
You're not gonna
So
put
not
UNC in there?
Oh no, yeah.
I wouldn't.
UNC as well. What's
Okay, well,
UNC's schedule? What's UNC's schedule looking like?
oh shoot, I
I
left.
think UNC is fringe in that conversation, but I'm not sure if they're quite there yet, to be honest.
Well, it's once again depends on how you view losses without your 99 overall quarterback. Virginia and FSU were without their 99 overall quarterback, and then they got him back for the Coastal loss, and then they have the second best win in the country according to our rankings right now. The best win in the country is Texas over Oklahoma. So other than that, they don't have another quality win except Ole Miss.
And they lost to
And-
Coastal. That's rough.
Yeah.
I know
They
Irish
also
fans would have won
beat
over ECU.
Georgia Tech, but yeah.
That's a good win.
Yeah.
I agree.
So obviously we'll rank them, but I don't know if they jump. Let's first battle out this kind of echelon. So we have, I marked down what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now some of this can be settled via head-to-head. Baylor has a head-to-head over Arkansas, so Baylor's going to have to be above Arkansas. And then Arizona, you didn't play either of these teams, right?
I don't think so.
You played Stanford, Utah, Coastal. Yeah, you only played TAMU. And then it was Alabama who beat Tennessee already. So Alabama has to be ahead of Tennessee. So right now, Baylor. So right now we're talking about the top 2 loss spot between Baylor, Bama, and Arizona. Now,
You then, since I can't talk.
yeah, I mean, but then you have like Alabama. If you're talking about common opponents, like Arizona just beat TAMU, but I think Alabama has the better quality wins. I mean, you have Florida, Penn State's a quality win, Tennessee obviously a big win, and I think the only comparable, I mean, if you want to rank these quality wins and then an overtime loss, I think it's between Alabama and Baylor in my eye.
However, Baylor got smoked by TCU though.
was a terrible loss, and then
Yeah.
they just got edged out by Iowa State.
Edge out by Iowa State. Their quote-unquote quality win is Arkansas. So, looking at this, is it really even close? I think
it's Bama here.
I think you have to
Or
put
it might be-
Bama because Arizona, like their best win going into like the last week of the season was Coastal. They had the Arizona State win, obviously Oregon State, USC have all started to get better, but losses to Stanford and Utah, I just think Bama's better.
What's really holding me back from ranking Baylor above Arizona is just that absolute decimation against TSU. It's just
Did Zona
TCU.
play TCU, or am I imagining that?
Did who play who?
Did Zona play TCU, or am I imagining that?
You're actually that.
Yeah, you're imagining that.
Okay.
They
Awesome.
they played, their non-conference was MTSU, Coastal,
Mm,
and
Yeah,
Texas
we looked at
what Rick
A&M
sent
and
yet?
Kansas. Huh?
have we looked at the things that Rick sent yet?
No, I don't. I can't open the Discord. So
Okay.
I don't think he sent anything.
He sent in the mod chat, but
Yeah. So, I think Bama is the highest 2-loss. I think that's fine to put down. So they're 9-2 at this point. Obviously, they control their own destiny. They face Oklahoma this week.
That's
Now the question is, does a team like Tennessee now jump Baylor or somebody? So they're 10-2 already. They have a win over Georgia, Florida, and their only losses are to Texas and Bama. I don't know how.
I don't think you
wanna
can have
rank-
them jump because they got smoked in both games.
And
Yeah.
Not
it's
necessarily
that.
smoked, but more than a one-score game. Like that's just. I don't think you can jump people when you're losing by more than one score in multiple games.
Well, yeah, and it's also the eye test I was talking about. Like in terms of a playoff,
Texas is so much worse too.
you gotta expect like Tennessee. Are they gonna win 4 games in a row? I don't know.
like their best win is against Florida. That's their best win.
Well, Georgia's the better win out of the two.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
I did
Georgia
see that.
just beat Bama. So
Oh, but they blew out Florida though. So I mean,
yeah. LA Tech 9-win team. They'll probably end up ranked maybe in the back half. So 3 ranked wins. Arizona 10-2. They have the win over A&M, USC overtime though. Oregon State, Utah
Coastal
is
win.
icky. Yeah, Coastal. I don't like any of these teams if I'm being.
I don't either. So
Not
hold
that I
on.
don't like
So
these teams, but it's like they
just
all
to
have
confirm,
flaws.
our options. So we have Bama at 7. Then it's between Tennessee, Baylor, Arkansas, and for the other 4 spots, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's early enough to consider a 3-loss team at this point.
Yeah. So I think
where are
it's
we? What number are we on right now?
8.
7th or 11. Well,
Okay.
yeah, 8th
Alright.
or 11.
And Alabama's 7. I don't think Alabama
So-
hops Minnesota or anything, so yeah.
I mean, I say Tennessee 8 probably. 'Cause, I mean, who else? 'Cause, I mean, Arizona doesn't really have any good wins. Tennessee beat Georgia, who just avenged their loss to Bama, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, can we
it's-
also look at how Arizona won too?
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
the
you've been
greatest
playing
win.
pretty close games.
But, okay.
And I have a common opponent over Arkansas.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks Arkansas is going to jump anybody here.
Arkansas's 11 in my head.
In terms of quality wins, the best win on the board
Is Georgia by far?
is it Georgia or what does Baylor pack?
Baylor,
I think
is-
Baylor's losses hurt them too much to be able to jump somebody.
Okay, but like Baylor does have the win over Arkansas, which is
Well, yeah, they'd be over Arkansas, but I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think they would
Baylor
jump
10.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I'd say we put Baylor 10, Arkansas
well, there's
11.
no rankings to go off of, or they're all the same pot. I'm not going off of a coach's poll that has transitive win rankings as 1/4. I probably put, as much as I'd say, probably put Tennessee at 8, and then
Yeah, Tennessee.
I'm okay with Tennessee at 8.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
think the Georgia win's better than anything Arizona has.
Yeah, I just
Million
think like comparable teams. Sure, Alabama lost to Georgia, and Tennessee beat Georgia, but at the same time, if resumes are even comparable at all, you can't ignore a 11-point head-to-head loss. So Tennessee at 8, that's fine.
And then where do we have Bama?
Is 7.
Bama's 7.
Okay, that's fine.
And then next up, I think it's between Baylor and I think it's either Arizona or Baylor here, and then we'll have to start looking at 3-loss teams, potentially jumping Arkansas.
Like Georgia.
I
Maybe.
do think that's actually possible right now for a few teams
Yeah,
to jump
so-
Arkansas.
So let's figure out this first between these two dweebs. Both locked out of their conference championships. You have Arizona, who has quality win to Coastal, ASU, Oregon State, USC in overtime, and A&M. Really, the two key matchups here are Coastal and A&M. The losses to Utah and Stanford. Okay. And then you have Baylor, 9-2. Win over Arkansas is a better win. Loss to ISU is equal, I would say, to that Stanford loss. Both around 8-3. Probably give the nod to Stanford in terms of quality. And then their other wins is Toledo, SMU. No other P5 quality wins. And you got
There's
smoked
only
by
you have somebody that got
TCU.
blown out, jump anybody.
Yeah, it's
I
like-
mean,
17-65 loss to TCU. That's
And
what's really
Arizona played Kansas better too.
Like if that
Yeah.
TCU game was like 2 scores, I.
all right, so I would say Arizona 9, Baylor 10. I'm not ready to jump TCU over Baylor. I just don't think. I think the Arkansas win is good enough for Baylor right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think because like if it was like Baylor then TCU, then I would say, but if
Because
TCU's gonna be
TCU,
down
if
a
we're
bit,
looking at
that's fine.
TCU, 9-3, they lost to ASU, lost to Kansas. That is a bad loss, and Kentucky. Too many mistakes here. And then, of course, if you want to play who's the hottest team in the country, maybe you say TCU, but at the same time, quality wins. SMU, that's the same as Baylor, and then CU. So one P5 quality win.
Well, TCU's
Yeah, no.
going to the BCG,
Well, yeah.
right? Or is that
Yeah,
not
but
confirmed?
that
Okay.
that won't
So I think they
matter
have time to prove
until
themselves.
yeah we can't consider CCG until it's that time. So, but yeah, okay. So
Well, I'm just saying, like they have time to prove themselves.
yeah, well, and the auto bid.
But
So
that's not allowed
Arizona 10-2 at 9, and then Baylor at 10 is 9-2 at 10. Okay, so we have Baylor done. We have Arizona done. All right, so now is the gaggle of 3-loss teams, and this is where it can get tough because I'm going to shout out all of the 3-loss teams that are in Power 5, and then I think at some point we got to start considering Cincinnati. But you got Buffalo, UNC, you've got Iowa State, you got TCU, you got Ohio State, Illinois, Cal, Stanford, Florida, and Georgia and Texas. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're at 10. So this is going to get us around to 21. We're going to have to mix Cincinnati and Arkansas in here as well. So first, let's just start off with Arkansas again before we start comparing, because I think Baylor 10-point loss at home isn't the end-all be-all worst thing in the world. CU wins fine. LSU win actually kind of trumps them over Texas, in my opinion, because Texas lost to LSU. And then a loss to Ole Miss isn't the worst, but they did get thumped. Win to BYU is pretty good.
What's Stanford looking like?
So Stanford, eight and 3, lost to LA Tech. They do have the win over Washington, which we have is the 3rd best win in the country. They have a win over Arizona. Hello. Forgot about that. So
Yeah.
2 top 10
That's
wins.
2 top
Win
10
loss.
wins, dude. I think that actually might jump.
Two
Holy
gross-
shit.
Yeah, that jumps.
Two gross losses. So I mean,
That's
2 point
okay.
loss
To
to
Cal,
Cal.
I don't think
though.
Cal
And they had
Before-
Chad Blunt
was
back.
loss.
before we dump them, 2 losses with Chad Blunt, both by a touchdown or 8 points, 9 points combined. They beat Stanford, lost to Utah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, they're still going to be ranked, but not. So Stanford definitely is a player here. They have 2 top 10 wins. Now, is there anybody else who can kind of trump that? So let's just quickly go through.
Georgia's the only team that
Buffalo.
has any chance.
Who are their quality wins? Army. Okay, so only Army, so they're probably not in this specific discussion. UNLV, they have the second best win in the country over ECU, but they don't have a second one. They have the Ole Miss win, which might be better than Ole Miss, or Arkansas, because it's the similar opponent. You got Coastal's loss, but no other quality wins other than Georgia Tech. Okay. Big 12, we went over that. Next is TCU. Obviously, Baylor is a top 10 win. Do they have a second win? No. Okay. Big 10, Ohio State. Do they have that second big win? Obviously, 2 of their 3 losses are the top teams.
They don't have a big.
They don't
win
have a
besides-
signature win.
Yeah, they don't have anything.
Yeah, Penn State or
They
Iowa.
lost
but-
every good game.
Okay.
Unless you count annihilating Penn State, but
Illinois, they have a good win over Iowa State, so that might be a head-to-head that we talk about later.
they have like
Um,
nothing else.
Other than that, no other quality wins. A weird loss to Northwestern. Okay. And then I'm still going down the line. We already saw Cal. Now we go to the SEC. So Florida first. Lost to Bama. Tennessee. The quality win is Utah. They did beat Georgia head-to-head.
Can I talk here, or can I not? Since I played them.
No, you can. You're not getting ranked, so it's fine. I mean, UCF isn't the worst loss in the world, but so their quality wins are Utah and Georgia, and then Georgia's quality wins. They lost to Tennessee. They're below them. They lost to Florida. Obviously, this really close late loss, and then they beat Bama. So they only have 1 quality win. So I'm fine putting Stanford here.
No, I 100% vote Stanford.
Let's put
Yeah.
Texas. Let's see Texas. They
There's
Tennessee
the
and
that
OU,
number
the
one
best. Okay, so you have the best win in the country according to our poll. You beat Tennessee, which, if we look at the poll, Oklahoma is ranked higher than Washington, and Tennessee is ranked higher than Arizona. They did lose to A&M, who we think's pretty good, and now they just have 2 bad losses. So, I mean,
Covered the
Stanford
belt
as
once,
well.
4 losses.
Okay, so Stanford, so Texas and OU, or Texas and Stanford both have really close wins.
I think the problem with Texas for me though is the fact that on stream just tonight, I mean you can call it recency bias, but they didn't just lose that game. They got dominated by a 4-win team most of that game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, but let's compare it here. So, okay, the losses are a bit better for Stanford because we do think LA Tech isn't the worst team in the world. Stanford, though, or Texas, 2 losses in a row. I would say Mississippi State is comparable to the Washington State loss, and then the LSU loss is a bit worse.
Have we taken a look at North Carolina?
Yes, a lot actually.
So, okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
since you're just joining
Sorry,
in,
here.
we're at 10, or sorry, we're at 11. The rank so far is Clemson, Oklahoma, ECU, Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona, Baylor. So right now we are deciding Arkansas is the only 2-loss team we haven't ranked yet, and we're not talking G5 yet. So right now the discussion is that among 3-loss teams, Texas and Stanford have the 2 best wins. They both have 2 top 10 wins. So it's who should be 11 and who should be
Okay.
12.
Stanford with the 2 top 5
I
and a top
mean,
10 win.
I think it's mostly just comes down to their losses, and I'd say just Texas has the worst losses. Because I mean, Stanford lost by less to like slightly better opponents, in my opinion.
You also have these two ranked, quote unquote, ranked losses. Well, we'll see if we rank LA Tech, but those two losses have a combined 5 points.
Yeah, so combined 12 points and losses,
I'm fine putting Stanford ahead.
whereas Texas has like 28 points and losses. Because it's lost by 14 to A&M and lost by 7 to both LSU and Mississippi State.
Okay, so Stanford, I'm going to put pencil in at 11. And they are 8-3. And we have Texas at 8-3. So now that leaves us at 13. And are we gonna keep dropping Arkansas, or are we gonna consider a team like Georgia?
I personally want Georgia over Arkansas because of the resume. It's just I think Georgia's wins just significantly clear them.
In that game against Clemson also, even though it's a loss, it really helps.
A
Well,
2-point
okay,
loss in OT,
but
like
you
it's just,
also, yeah. So like Georgia, they have quality losses. You know, all three of their losses are great.
I
Fine.
mean, they have the #1 quality loss.
They have Alabama, which is ranked number 7, and they beat Ole Miss, who has played a lot of these other teams.
I just feel like
Florida
scoring
has a head-to-head
68
though.
points though, like 68 points on the #1 team in the country. I feel like that's worth talking about.
Yeah, I don't think you can put Florida ahead of Georgia right now, despite the head-to-head, just based on the resumes. I do think that North Carolina is a really good team, though. The losses
Yeah.
don't track,
Hold on,
even
what's
though they
Arkansas
have the
looking like?
best win.
Arkansas looks terrible.
Yeah, Arkansas does not look good. They're
Well,
dropping way more.
I don't think dropping way more, but like,
Yeah, I mean, they have the transitive win over Texas, but they have that super close game against Arkansas too, which is not
They're
helping.
blown out by Ole Miss,
their
who's 7-5.
best win is BYU and LSU.
Yeah.
So
A 6-7 win team.
Yeah, so they might drop a bit more, to be honest.
I don't know if you can drop a 2-loss team too much further,
Yeah,
Well,
that's my only hesitant part is they're the only 2-loss 2-5
I
team.
mean, there's a lot. I think right now, do you rank TCU?
I don't.
Or
I mean,
I think
that's
it's Georgia next. I think Georgia is probably
It's
next.
definitely Georgia, and then I think you kind of have to start thinking about sliding Arkansas in now because I think this is getting a little egregious for them to drop as a 2-loss team, even though it's a bad resume. They're still only a 2-loss team.
Yeah, that's so.
But at
To
some
me,
point,
this is
though, it's like, sure, you only have 2 losses, but it's the same thing. It's like we have 2 teams in the same pod with them, Iowa State and TCU, who, sure, they have 1 more loss, but they beat Baylor. Arkansas couldn't beat Baylor. So you got BYU
Yeah,
and an
no
Ole Miss
head-to-head
loss.
in a common opponent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Iowa State has the Baylor win.
and
They
TCU
lost.
absolutely blew out Baylor too. So
Yeah, I mean, I think TCU.
I think you could put TCU there and then Arkansas.
I mean, I personally don't. I
yeah,
think that if you're starting to go over the Big 12 teams who beat Baylor, who we have ranked 10, that you have to put UNC ahead of them because they have the win over the number 3 team in the country.
yeah. However, that is just 65-17 is so hard to ignore.
I mean, holding ECU to 12 points, beating them by 2 scores is pretty hard to do.
But it's also really hard to drop 65.
Well, yeah, there's also So we ranked Georgia. We ranked Texas. Okay.
Wait, where do you put Georgia? Because
I put Georgia at 13. So we're at 14 right
okay,
now.
yeah.
So, I mean, you have the win over Stanford for Cal. Like you're starting to get to all these teams have big flaws. Some have massive wins, some don't. Ohio State, 2 quality losses, just no statement win.
I say
I think the next
I
two
s-
have to be North Carolina and TCU. It's just which do you prefer
yeah.
do you prefer a blowout of Baylor or do you prefer a win over ECU?
It's just
That's
which is
actually
more.
kind of tough because
Because
Yeah,
they both have these saucy trash losses attached. Like the Coastal loss is actually a good loss. That was a great game, very close. TCU's losses are shitty. You got ASU, you've got Kansas, and you've got Kentucky.
they
yeah.
got
That
fucking
I
blown
think
But
that
out by
there's
ASU too.
but there's
yeah, I think
something to
that
be said
ASU.
about the way that they play. It,
Yeah,
I,
but that
I,
ASU
I,
loss kind of does it for me.
the
Yeah, you
tiebreaker
lose
for
by 3
me,
scores to a 6-win team. I don't know.
the thing that I know Dogwar won't agree, but I think the trump card is UNC is still doing this with backup quarterback playing half the time or most of the
I do,
season.
okay.
Yeah,
Let me clarify this. Okay, my stance on the whole injuries. I do think injuries play a significant role in teams losing. I just don't think you can flip a loss into a win just because they had an injury.
Well,
I
no, that's
agree.
fine. I've never lobbied for erasing losses, but these losses can be partly explained by backup quarterbacks.
They can be explained, but they're not excused. Like I would be fine. I'd be fine. Like I've had this. I feel like I've had this conversation so many times. I am okay, somewhat forgiving it. Like if we're talking about like splitting hairs, like I'm okay being like, okay, they had injuries they were dealing with and everything. But I'm not gonna like be like, oh well, there was only a 3-point loss, so that might as well just be considered a win with their starting
Yes,
quarterback. Like I'm not gonna
exactly.
do that. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna assume it was a win. Otherwise, like, I'm not gonna assume it was a win. They lost.
I mean, Cal's really 11-1 if we're really wanting to split hairs here,
But
but
they're not though. That's our point. They're not.
Chad Blunt is worth 7 points. You can't flip my mind. But
If
anyways,
I would have lost
splitting the
hours to that game
hairs,
and we lose the game, would you have blamed it?
I
Or
think
would have said anything else?
splitting hairs
so.
between TCU and UNC, I think that UNC gets the nod.
Yeah, just because that ASU loss for TCU, 23 points is huge.
No, I agree with that. I think a 3-score loss to a 6-win team is just pretty brutal, even with that win over.
However, didn't UNC also have a 3-score loss to 7-win Virginia?
They also
Yeah,
lost to
like it's
5-win Kentucky, dude.
yeah,
And they,
the losses are going to be pretty equal. I mean, technically, the Coastal loss isn't as bad as any of these three. I just think that they have less bad losses. They have the better win. The only thing that TCU can do is score a bunch, which UNC showed that they could do against Coastal. So, I don't know.
I say
Yeah,
that's
but
UNC.
TCU's doing this all season, putting up 40-point games, whereas UNC
Eh,
did it like once.
yeah. Well, all right. UNC 14, TCU 15. Are we good?
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah,
All
I'm fine
right.
with that.
All right. TCU. Okay.
Arkansas?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah, I feel like you have to at this point.
Yeah, we're at 16.
Yeah, you have to rank Arkansas.
A
Just
win.
It's getting egregious at this point.
Win is a win, I guess. I mean,
but
any of
Cincinnati.
these. But the thing is like, look at this. Is like, you compare
Yeah, but at a certain
Arkansas.
point, we can't look too deep into it. Like,
No,
Like,
but
it's
just
just-
look at just these two teams. Is Arkansas, right? Now, it's ISU. They're going to play this week anyways. But ISU beat Baylor. Baylor
TC.
beat Arkansas.
It's a 2-loss. It's a 2-loss P5.
Ole
team.
Miss
You gotta
scrubbed
rank them
them.
at some point.
Iowa State beat Baylor. They beat nobody else. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Arkansas,
Yeah.
16. At least they're not 25. Well, okay. Arkansas. We got TCU. Baylor's out.
So
I am
guys
100%
first talking
okay
about
calling this a
Cincy?
pity rank too.
Okay, I
Are we
think
gonna-
now we look at the Cincinnati. I think. Okay, in terms of the G5, Cincinnati
Southern
is
Miss.
still 10-1.
They lost to a good Army team. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Army's long been considered the best or like one of the top 5 G5 teams out there. I know they basically didn't play any Power 5 out of conference games, which is tough. But I don't think that like a 3-point loss versus one of the better G5s is worth like, oh, they should. I mean, I think that they should be ranked top 20 at least.
Yeah, no, what I think Cincinnati probably still gets the first. Well, I don't know. Does Rutgers get the nod over Cincinnati in our rankings because they have a 3-point loss to Cal and Iowa, and
No.
then they got shit on
What?
by Iowa.
No, they don't.
No.
I just got that. Am I ranked yet?
Yeah.
But
or
they
is it
have the
gonna be
common
fine?
win. No?
I just don't think you can put anybody in the G5 over Cincinnati right now. I don't
mean,
think that's even a
Louisville is
discussion.
their best
Yeah.
win.
But
Yeah,
Louisville's
that's
not a
another-
bad win either. That's a 10-win team as well, and they dominated that team.
Yeah.
Like, I think Cincinnati is deserving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do they go here at 17?
I'd say maybe save it a bit more.
Well,
They're definitely in the
we can't-
17 to 20 range, in my
well,
opinion.
Let me just look at
Yeah.
the rest of these teams. So Buffalo, no. Iowa State, they have the Baylor win. Ohio State doesn't have any quality wins. Illinois, it lost.
Illinois
Buffalo
3-loss, right?
Yeah,
Opponent
Illinois,
over-
they beat Iowa State, right? Hold on.
I'd be okay with Illinois right here. I think after maybe looking at their schedule, but
Win.
I think we
Iowa
did
State.
Illinois, and it was pretty rough, wasn't it?
Northwestern loss is kind of icky. We have Cal here.
lost to
Cal
Penn
does
State.
have a Stanford win.
Cal might beat Cal time.
Or
It
Florida.
wasn't Cal's schedule a little weird.
Hold on. Let's look at Florida first. Florida 8-3.
Florida
If-
does not go.
No, I think
the win
Florida's
over
resume is
Georgia.
just too rough.
wait, really? Y'all think Florida's resume is too rough for
Like,
now?
I get they have the win over Georgia. Like, I get that, but it was early on in the season. They've beat nobody else, really, and they just lost to UCF.
Well, if you go on
I mean-
common opponents, Stanford or Cal lost to Utah and Florida beat them.
Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take
Florida
away
beat
from
Utah
Florida.
as well, though.
Utah's a 6-win team.
Yeah, but they're not bad.
I don't
No, but
pay
yeah, but
attention
this
to
is
the
common
21
opponent.
ranking. It is a
No, but
common
yeah, this
opponent.
is a common opponent though.
The problem is
really gets me.
UCF, man. That game was just terrible.
I mean, it was
You
terrible.
see,
I feel like you're always gonna have a shitter every year. Like, I feel like you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
there's always gonna drop one really questionable one. I feel like.
Well, the
Cal-
best win.
Cal-
I mean, you
does
almost
have
just
that
did it against
fire.
Missouri, so I know you can relate.
The best win left on the board is the Baylor win from Iowa State. For right now, that would be.
No, I don't think you
I
can
would-
jump on because Cal lost to a common opponent.
Yeah, that losing to a common opponent there kind of does it for me.
Now, do you think like an LA Tech jumps when their losses are like Tennessee and Wazoo, even though they have the Stanford win?
That was
Like, 'cause
I don't know.
I think that
however, Cal has that 5-point loss to Washington, which kind of puts them over LA Tech in my mind. Since LA Tech got absolutely decimated by Tennessee. So
I mean, at some point, like, if we have to, like, if Rutgers beats Cincinnati, then all of a sudden we have to actually pay attention to all these 2-loss G5 teams. I think Cincinnati, you put them at 17. I don't think
I
they mess
agree.
around.
I
I agree.
agree.
But I was getting a little nervous because I was like, in my opinion, Cincinnati had to be a top 20 team. We were kind of cutting a little close there.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like there's an
There's
auto
just
bid at
so
this
many.
point.
I didn't expect the resumes to be this even across the board like this.
No, yeah, no. It's,
No, yeah,
this year is
that's-
stacked at the top. Okay, so now we're at 18. We have Iowa State, Ohio State, Illinois, Cal, Florida, and then Buffalo, and then a mix of these 2-loss G5 teams.
I'd say Ohio State, just to preface this, is going at the bottom of those 3 lost.
What is
teams.
Buffalo looking like? Yeah, let's see.
Buffalo, best win, NC State, and Army.
Ooh. I mean, the Army win's not bad.
No,
Yeah,
but
I mean Army beat
same
Cincy.
It was a
time.
pretty tough Syracuse
This
loss
is
and a
not
really rough
the-
ECU loss.
not the best schedule.
However, Ohio State is looking even worse though. 'Cause, I mean, they have nothing. Like they
Well,
don't
Iowa
even
State
have that.
has the Baylor win. At some point, it has to mean something. And
I
they
think
No,
Iowa
yeah, a
State-
6-point win over Baylor is a huge win in my opinion.
And they have
Iowa
some
State-
nice wins here, but there's a lot of common losses to Iowa. There's a lot of teams that have wins over Iowa, and then you also have Illinois who has the head-to-head. So if it's if they're a close resume, you have to honor the head-to-head.
Yeah, I think Illinois gives 18 here.
It's
That
just such a bad
Northwestern
loss
loss.
to Northwestern, man. But they did beat Iowa, the common
mean,
opponent.
Northwestern's
tough
5-7. It's not like they lost to like, you know what I mean, like
Purdue.
Wake
Oh,
Forest or
lost to
something.
Purdue.
Yeah, I mean they're 5-7. It's not.
I
Like
mean, 5-7 is still rough.
it's still rough, but it's not as bad as some losses that I feel like we've forgiven.
Yeah, I mean,
Usually
we've
it's like the
seen-
20 mark.
Like TCU took an 1-11 or 0-11 team to overtime and won by 2.
I mean, we're looking right now.
Yeah.
You know, Iowa State just lost to Nebraska by
Yeah.
16 there.
Okay. I think you go in just in terms of those two teams. I think we have to put Iowa or Illinois over Iowa State just by 1.
I agree.
So whenever we rank Illinois, Iowa State goes right behind because that Baylor win gets them right to behind them, right?
I think
Yeah.
you can rank them right now.
I think the
Yeah.
only team I want to look at again is Cal and Florida.
Cal
Cause-
is the only one I'd put at this position. I don't think Florida belongs.
Yeah, I
mean,
think
that
you go-
Georgia win is good, but like you get decimated by
LSU,
Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, and you
Really
kind of got
point
to
win over
punish them
win
for this
Miami.
week. Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay, but again, like, what is UCF? What is UCF's record?
7-4.
But you also
See,
look
that's my
at
thing,
Florida
too.
is like every team has been blowing people out. If you look at these wins, you got 7, you got 3, you got 5, you got 3, you got 8, you got 14, and then you know what I mean? Like they're not handing like how do you beat Auburn, Miami by combined was that
5
8
points?
8, yeah.
All at home in the swamp? 3,
I
5,
just got
that's
one
like,
of them.
3,
like
5,
if they
3.
got the win. Like, I'm not gonna
Well,
sit here and be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh."
But we're splitting hairs between these 3 lost teams. That's you've got you got Iowa State who's hanging or
I
like
say
70.
Cal is. I think Cal goes here at what is this 18?
Well, this is a Stanford win now, and they have the loss to Utah and Washington, which is a close loss. I would be fine either
Well,
doing
Stanford's technically a better win than Baylor, aren't they? Aren't they ranked higher?
Baylor
Stanford
is
is
at
11.
10,
Never mind. Baylor's
11 is
lost, never mind.
Stanford, yeah. No,
Yeah,
Okay,
but
I
that's
think you
not.
go. I think you go. Honestly, I still
you
think
also
you
got
go
a
like.
Rutgers win here though too.
Yeah, I still think you go.
Ooh, yeah.
I think you go Cal, Illinois, Iowa State, Florida.
Yeah, but if you look at Cal
That's what
too,
I'm
all their
thinking.
games are close too.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a couple blowouts, but a lot of their games are close.
But at the
But that
same
5-point loss to
time,
Washington.
missing Chad Blunt, you never know.
All right, run. God damn it! Just do the thing. Just do Cal, Illinois,
I
Ohio
think
State.
Cal goes here.
Yeah, it's just that close loss against Washington and the Stanford win really, and they only lost, and they've lost by what, a combined
All their losses are
5, 9,
just
11 points. They've lost by combined 11 points. So
yeah. I think Cal goes here. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think all
And
three of those
then-
losses are actually pretty good losses too.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go Cal, who is 8-3, and then you're gonna go Illinois.
Yeah.
Y'all do crack me up on some of y'all's reasonings though, because I do like y'all would be like, like Florida. It's like who have they beaten? Like nobody. It's like Utah's there. It's like Utah. It's only six wins, and then it's like all right, let's see how Cal's doing, and then it's like all right, well they have pretty good
but
losses.
we're also going
I
off
think
the
all
eye
their
test
losses are
here.
pretty good. It's like lost to Utah.
Well.
Yeah, but Utah's eye test, they sucked every time we watched them live. Every time we watched them
Yeah.
live, they fucked something up.
also, Nick, I am dead tired. I'm ready to go to bed, but I gotta do
Alright.
this.
We have 4 more spots. Come on, folks. Okay, so I have. Let's just recap where we're at. Clemson's 1, Oklahoma, ECU, Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona, Baylor. That's the 2 or less lost teams outside a couple. Then you got Stanford, Texas, Georgia, UNC, TCU. That's 15. And then Arkansas, Cincy, Cal, Illinois, Iowa State, Florida. And we're at 21. So we got 4 more spots. And let me tell you the teams on the board that we're looking at here. We are looking at Buffalo, Rutgers. We are looking at Ohio State. We're looking at Louisiana and LA Tech and Louisville. A little gaggle of 2-loss G5s. And then looking at Southern Miss. And then if we need like a flyer or 25, we're looking at Georgia Southern and A&M. So that's
I
kind of where we're
think
at.
the two
I-
P5s that you mentioned in the beginning, I think need to be ranked next. Truly, I think it's what Buffalo,
State and Buffalo.
Ohio State, and Buffalo. I think Buffalo, Ohio State next
Now-
to honestly.
Now, just an interesting question here is: LA Tech has a better win than both of them.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
I
say.
still think their
And-
overall
Yeah.
schedule is more difficult.
Well, let's just
Play
take
2
a
top 5
gander here, because,
teams.
well, yeah, but then you also lost by like a combined gazillion to those 2 teams.
Who did I'm sorry, who did you say
Um,
had a
Yeah.
better win?
I think the only
Louisiana
team,
Tech.
the only G5
Louisiana
team that
Tech.
would have an argument
was
would be
going
LA
over
Tech,
here.
because they beat
Also, didn't I
Stanford
hang with
on the
Clemson, or
road.
am I?
I think you respect Louisiana Tech by giving them a rank, but I think overall opponent quality.
Yeah,
I
though
think
the
you
Washington
have to give
State
it.
loss, yeah.
Yeah, I still think you have to give it to both Buffalo and Ohio State over Louisiana Tech, but I think you rank Louisiana Tech.
Oh, definitely. Like,
I think
Who's
probably
this Louisiana Tech win we're talking about?
at Stanford,
Okay.
who we have ranked number 11.
Right.
So just looking at the resumes between Buffalo, over 6 wins is you have NC State, you have Army at Army, and then that's it. And then
I think it's just tough because like take out ECU and Clemson, who are basically 1 and 2. I mean,
okay, well,
it's top 3 teams,
both
right?
teams they both got smoked by the top 2 in the conference. You got Clemson, ECU, and then Michigan, Minnesota. Ohio State's were a little bit closer, but that doesn't really matter. In terms of actual wins, Iowa, Penn State, Michigan State, and then they lost to Oregon State. I mean, the Oregon State and the Syracuse loss are pretty much the same. So
That's kind of why I think you give the nod to Buffalo, though, only because it's like, A, I'm always going to sort of favor user teams, but B, it's also like, I don't know. I just feel like Buffalo, because they faced two of the absolute toughest teams, and they still have a win over Army, which I think is more impressive than anything Ohio State's done. I think that's why you ranked them next, and then Ohio State, and then maybe Louisiana Tech, and then maybe like Texas A&M or someone like that to finish it off.
Yeah, I kind of agree. However, Ohio State's also plays Michigan and Minnesota, two top 6 teams, which are number 5 and number 6, I'm pretty sure. And they played them far closer. They lost by 12 to Michigan, lost by 4 to Minnesota, which is closer than Buffalo's to the ECU and Clemson. So it's like, what do you do then?
Yeah. So it's like, so all the losses are
Also
similar.
lost to Syracuse by a lot more than Ohio State lost to Oregon State.
That is true.
But Ohio State doesn't really have a win.
I would say.
I'd say the Penn State win is better than the Army win.
They also have
Oh,
Iowa.
really?
I mean, they're blowing these teams out.
Michigan. Yeah, and Penn State beat Michigan, and Army's best win is their win over Cincinnati. And
I mean, maybe. I guess you could. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go. I mean, I think they're interchangeable. Like I said, I think I'm favoring Buffalo just because I favor users generally. But like, I wouldn't be upset if it was Ohio State and then Buffalo. But I think regardless, you rank those as the next two because their losses are pretty excusable.
I agree.
All right, vote. Ohio State or Buffalo. 3, 2, 1.
Buffalo.
Ohio State.
Buffalo.
Oh my God.
Sweep 'em.
The resume says Buffalo sucks, but it helps my strength of schedule. I'll take it.
I argue all that, but I still vote
Okay.
I
Boys
argue
in the
all
Citrus
that.
Bowl.
Let the
The resume also says Ohio State can't beat ranked teams.
That's true.
Man,
Let's
true
not-
chaos would have. I wish I were like in an alternate reality where Missouri won tonight. I'm sorry, TC. That just I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to see. I just want to be a fly on the wall.
I'd be in
experience it.
I'd be like Brady Quinn dropping in the draft, or like Malik Willis.
I mean, TC, what if you went 0-12 this year somehow? All 1-point losses.
Then my season would have been over a while ago. I would have been happy. I'm happier when I'm out of contention. You know that, right? When I'm in this spot, I know the loss is coming. I just don't know from where.
It's almost a 2-9 Missouri.
Exactly, dude. Tribe has my number. He beat me in fantasy. He beat me last year, Wisconsin. All right, so we have 2 more spots. It's going to likely be G5 teams, as the only other P5 team I have is A&M, and I don't.
Can we pull up Southern Miss's resume?
Yeah, I think it's
Southern
a 3-team.
Coastal. That Coastal shutout is huge.
I think that it's a 3-team race: LA Tech, Rutgers, and Southern Miss. So let's take a look. Southern Miss here. 9-6 over Tulane.
No.
Yeah, but they blew out Coastal 24-0. I think that completely makes up for it.
I don't think that's better than
best offense in the G5, dude. The best offense held is 0.
Dude, they have 1 quality win outside of Coastal. All right, that's them. All right, now you look at Rutgers. 9-2. They beat Louisiana, so if it comes down to Louisiana, you have to favor the head-to-head. Army's a win.
Out of these 3, I think it's LA Tech, Southern Miss, Rutgers, or
No, I think Rutgers is over Southern Miss based off of that resume.
I agree with that.
And then just to look at it, what we gotta give Louisville a nod, see what they're packing.
No.
Nevada loss.
No.
No, yeah,
You're not liking
this is a horrible fucking schedule.
You don't like that overtime win?
Get it off my screen. Oh my god.
All right, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's clear.
Louisville only has 1 win, 1 quality win over a 6-win team. I'm pretty sure I just saw, which is wild.
All right, I think it's clear. It's LA Tech and Rutgers.
Yeah.
All right, that concludes the meeting. Hold on, let me go through one more time, make sure I didn't fudge it up. Number 1 is Clemson, 2 is Oklahoma, 3 ECU, 4 Washington, 5 Michigan, 6 Minnesota, 7 Alabama, 8 Tennessee, 9 Arizona, 10 Baylor, 11 Stanford, 12 Texas, 13 Georgia, 14 UNC, 15 TCU, 16 Arkansas, 17 Cincinnati, 18 Cal, 19 Illinois, 20 Iowa State, 21 Florida, 22 Buffalo, 23 Ohio State, 24 LA Tech, and 25 Rutgers. Whew. We
Feel
good?
good about it.
All right. As
Yeah,
always,
we're
don't
good.
spoil the rankings. I'm going to work on them right now. And, yeah.
All right. See you, people.